Eddie Canestracci here! Yeah, I'm here to talk about Alice Cooper. I've done a few other Alice Cooper videos in the past, so this shouldn't be a surprise. Interesting thing happened the other day. It was Friday. I get up Friday morning. I'm scrolling through the interweb, as I do in the morning sometime. And I see there's all these headlines about Alice Cooper. Everyone's talking about Alice Cooper, and I know why. It's because the new album's out. That's right. I didn't actually bother to read the headlines or to read the articles because I'm a busy guy. I don't want to sound like a hot shot here, but yeah, I'm kind of a busy guy. So I didn't really have time to actually look at the headlines or read the articles, but I'm assuming because it's the same day his new album came out, all these articles had to be about the new album. And obviously, everyone's really excited about Alice Cooper's new album. I was like, wow, all these people, all these websites are suddenly very interested in Alice Cooper after all these years. Normally, they don't pay this much attention to him. So, hey, that's a great thing. I'm very happy that all these media outlets are paying a lot of attention to Alice Cooper because of his new album. That's awesome. So everyone must be really digging this new album. I had already pre-ordered it, of course, and I was really excited. Now seeing that there was this new enthusiasm for Alice Cooper and his music. Finally, social media cares about an artist and their music. It's about time. Now I was even more excited than ever to hear the new Alice Cooper album, which now I have listened to all weekend long. Yeah, all weekend long. So I have an educated opinion about this album. Road. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's just called Road. Not even The Road. Just Road. I heard the first single, I'm Alice. I'll tell you what I thought about it when we get to that song and start reviewing the album track by track. If you watch my No Gallagher video, you know I made a YouTube pledge. I made a YouTube pledge that I would only listen to the first single that was released for upcoming albums. I'm not down with all these singles being released before the album coming out and they pop up in your digital library, and by the time the album comes out, you've listened to half the album. It takes away the experience of listening to an album. Even though I had a couple new songs, I had this White Line Frankenstein song. It's like, oh, okay, Alice doing the Frankenstein thing again. But I wasn't going to listen to it. And I didn't listen to it because I said, I want to listen to this as an album. And I did it. I showed great willpower, and I did not listen to any of the tracks except for, like I said, the first single. I heard that. I think it's all right to listen to a first single, just like we did in the old days. But then that's it. The rest I want to hear as an album. But before we get to this album, I want to say a few things, especially to these new Alice Cooper fans. All these new Alice Cooper fans that must be out there because everyone's so excited about the new album and talking about him over the internet that I assume there's going to be this whole new wave of Alice Cooper fans. It's kind of like what happened to Kate Bush and Metallica after they were on Stranger Things. So something like that is happening. I don't know. Was Alice Cooper, did they use his music on Stranger Things or something? I don't know. I don't know why suddenly everyone's so interested in Alice Cooper. But hey, I think that's a great thing, of course, being a big Alice Cooper fan. Hi to all the new fans. I can help you out because I did 2 epic videos, did it during the Panorama. I did 2 videos in which I reviewed every single Alice Cooper album, including the early Alice Cooper band albums. And if you're interested in learning about this artist that you've just gotten into, well, definitely check out those 2 videos. I will leave a link down below. As Mick Watkins says, down below. I also reviewed Detroit Stories, which wasn't out when I did those other videos. So I did a separate video for Detroit Stories, and I was a little hard on it. Yeah, I was a little hard on it. That's the thing with a new album. New album, sometimes you might overpraise it. I think I overpraised the new Metallica album a little. Hey, I still like it. I still think it's a good album. But yeah, I was a little drunk and I was a little excited about it, and it didn't suck. So I probably overpraised it a little bit. That's all I'll say. Still like it, but I overpraised it a little bit. Detroit Stories was the opposite. I was a little too sober, I guess. I was pretty hard on the album. I kind of gave it a lukewarm review. And now I really, really like that album. Wouldn't say love it, but I like it. And it's definitely, I would say it was my favorite album post Dirty Diamonds. Yeah, I think it's a really fun album, really eclectic. I think it shows a lot of different sides, even brings in a little of that snotty new wave side from the early 80s that I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of Alice Cooper's new wave blackout period. And I felt that Detroit Stories brought back a little of that vibe to it. And overall, I just think it's a really good Alice Cooper album. So officially now I am saying Detroit Stories is a good album and my favorite album post Dirty Diamonds. And I'm sorry I was hard on it, but that's the thing about new reviews. That's the thing about new reviews, you know? They could change. But that's why you have to give a new album a chance. Like, even if you don't initially get into it, don't cancel the band because of it. That's why I called this video Road to Cancellation, because sometimes there's some bands that release so many albums that I don't like in a row that I stop buying their new albums. Like Iron Maiden, for example. And in a sense, I cancel them from my music library. So that's the question here. Alice Cooper, am I going to cancel him from my music library? Detroit Stories has grown on me. But, you know, maybe Road was so bad, it might make me want to cancel Alice Cooper from my music library based on the quality of the album. Like, you know, Alice is too old. I'm not into him anymore. You know, I'll still listen to his old shit, but no more new albums. That's it. It's the end of the road for me and Alice Cooper. Is that the case with Road? Let's find out. I could tell you, I was a little apprehensive because I wasn't that crazy about the first single, I'm Alice. I thought it was a little hokey. A little him doing that whole, hey, I'm Alice Cooper, welcome to the show type stuff, which we've heard before and done better in my opinion. I mean, it ain't Hello Hooray, let's just say that. And the whole idea that it was a concept album about him being on the road all felt kind of generic and cliche to me. Yeah, it has Bob Ezrin coming back to produce yet again. He's been producing a lot of Alice's later albums. I'm not really crazy about Bob Ezrin's later day production. I think he's a little overrated. He was great back in the day, especially back when he was producing the Alice Cooper Band. But, you know, he ain't producing stuff like Billion Dollar Babies and Killer anymore. But, you know, he knows how to turn the knobs. But the big thing here is that Alice was using his touring band, his current touring band. He has 3 guitarists. Ryan Roxie, who he's been playing with since the late 90s, and Ryan Roxie has more or less been Alice's guy, like both as a guitarist and as a co-songwriter. He's been helping Alice write songs for decades now, including 2 of my favorite later period Alice Cooper albums, The Eyes of Alice Cooper and Dirty Diamonds, which I have a high opinion of both those albums, and Ryan Roxie was a big part of those 2 albums, and he's still a part of what Alice is doing and still a big part of this album, and I think it's great. I think it's great that what Ryan and Alice got going on. So I'm glad that he's still part of the fold. We also have Tommy Henriksen. Am I saying that right? Tommy Henriksen. We also have Nita Strauss. Yes, Nita Strauss. Now, Nita Strauss is a very attractive woman. One might even say she's fucking hot. Well, the thing is, Nita Strauss is also a really, really great guitarist. Yeah, she's a great guitarist. She can really play. She's great. But I have to admit, the first thing I think of when I think of Nita Strauss is how she's fucking hot. And then I think about how she's a great guitarist. And really, it should be the other way around. That's how I should be thinking. In fact, I'm going to tell you, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, for a good 10 to 15 minutes, do nothing but think about Nita Strauss until I think about it the right way. Seriously, great guitarist. All 3 of these people are great guitarists, and they bring a lot to this record. Actually, I would say it's one of the strongest aspects of this record is the guitar work from these 3 great musicians. Also, you have playing bass Chuck Garrick, and on the drums is Glenn Sibel. I hope I pronounce all these people's names correctly. If I mispronounce their name, no disrespect. I mispronounce my own name half the time. But all great musicians, all great players. There's also a few guest guitarists as well. But for the most part, this is the core band. His touring band is the core band of this album. And I think it does benefit the album that there is an actual core band. It's not like these later Ozzy Osbourne albums where all these different guest musicians are punched in and it all sounds like something that's pieced together remotely on a fucking computer. And also, Alice Cooper isn't fucking auto-tuned to death like Ozzy Osbourne, and the songs don't all suck like they do on new Ozzy Osbourne albums. Out of the gate, Alice Cooper's already done better than Ozzy Osbourne, because even I'm Alice, I think, is a little bit better than what Ozzy's been doing. And I'm Alice has grown on me. Yes, in fact, for the past 3 days, this whole album has grown on me. I will tell you right now, I was disappointed when I first heard it. When I first heard it, I was like, nah, it's not really good. It's pretty generic for the most part. I think Alice's lyrics are really dumbed down. I still think that to a degree. But over the days of listening to it, it started to really grow on me, and I think it's a really fun album. I can't say I like it better than Detroit Stories. I think Detroit Stories is a little smarter lyrically. I think it's a little more eclectic. And overall, I think it's a better album. But I wasn't crazy about that album when I first heard it. And my opinion has already changed a lot about Road in just 3 days. So it's possible I might feel differently. If you're a fan of like glam metal Alice Cooper, then this will probably be the album you've been waiting for a while now. Now, don't get me wrong. I love some of that stuff. I love the Raise Your Fist and Yell album. I think that's great. But I consider that album more kind of just straight up melodic metal and not quite as glam metal as Constrictor, Trash, and Hey Stupid Face. Sonically, that's the first thing you think of is that period of albums. But the more you listen to it, you hear there is a lot of 70s mixed in too. Not a lot of Alice Cooper band 70s, but definitely like post-solo Alice, late 70s Alice Cooper. Like the Alice Cooper Show and Alice Goes to Hell. Definitely Lace and Whiskey. It's like that era of Alice Cooper, late 70s Alice Cooper, mixed in with late 80s, early 90s Alice Cooper. That would be the best way I would describe this album. I'm Alice has grown on me. In fact, now I think I'm Alice is actually one of the better songs on the album. It's no Hello Hooray. It does have a little bit of that atmosphere to it. Part of me likes the absurdity of Alice Cooper after all these years. He's a man in his 70s and he's like still introducing himself. It's a little like when Motorhead did We Are Motorhead, and that was like the early 21st century, and Motorhead had already been around for 3 decades, and they're just introducing themselves. We are Motorhead. I like it. It's kind of like that. It's like Alice is saying to new people, probably to all these new fans he suspected he was going to get with this new wave of interest he's getting all over the internet. So it's perfect. He's introducing himself again. Hey, I'm Alice, and he's telling you what he's all about. And the music's great, the guitar works great, and it's a good way to set up the album. I dig it. Then it has another song that's kind of like an opening song, Welcome to the Show. When I first listened to this, I was just like, well, are there like 2 first songs here? But this is a good song. I like it. I like Welcome to the Show. It's rocking. The lyrics are nothing really special. Lacks a little of the dark mystique of the first song, I'm Alice, but it's a little more hard rocking and a little more upbeat. So I dig it. It works as a second track. So that one grew on me. All Over the World. I kind of like this song. It has a little more of that 70s vibe, that late 70s vibe, which I dig. It has really corny Casio sounding horns, and the chorus gets a little too repetitive, and the lyrics are kind of dumb. So yeah, not one of the stronger songs in my opinion. That is a problem with this album, as I feel a lot of the choruses are too repetitive. And this song especially. Next we have Dead Don't Dance. Now this one features former Alice Cooper guitarist Kane Roberts, who was also touring with him on some legs of the newer tours. Kane Roberts, he's the big muscular guy that played with Alice in the late 80s. Going to the gym, pumping out iron, makes him play a really tough sounding guitar. Yeah, Dead Don't Dance is heavy. It's a heavy track. I would say kind of a Zakk Wylde style guitar line here. It's kind of heavy, has some of those pinchy harmonic things. It's a good track. It's heavy. I like it. It's a little out of step with the vibe of the whole album, and that's something about these guest guitar songs, especially this and one other that we're going to get to, where I think the vibe doesn't entirely work with the rest of this vibe, which is more of a late 70s, late 80s mashup. But it's still a good track. It's a good heavy track. It's definitely better than anything fucking Ozzy Osbourne's done in recent years. Go Away! Ooh, I like this song. Now, this is a good song. This is probably my second or third favorite song on the album. It has an AC/DC-ish kind of riff. Good rock and roll song about this crazy groupie chick that's following him around, kind of stalking him. I guess it's about him having this stalker, and he's telling her to go away. The lyrics are a little bit better than some of the other songs, and I think it's a good song. It's catchy, it's fun, and yeah, I dig it. Next, White Line Frankenstein. This was the second single, which I held off on listening to, featuring Tom Morello. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Audioslave. And I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Tom Morello fan. I can hear he's a talented guy, but I don't know, I always found his playing to be a little too geometric, a little too mathematical sounding. Not so into his style so much. But he's got a style. And in fact, his style really sticks out on this song, White Line Frankenstein. I'm not a huge fan of these Alice Cooper Frankenstein songs. In this one, White Line Frankenstein, yet again, it's not very faithful to the Mary Shelley text. Yeah, it's not very faithful to the Mary Shelley Frankenstein, like all these Alice Cooper Frankenstein songs. It is, however, faithful to Mary Shelley's Frankenberry. I assume the white line is the pouring of the white milk into the Frankenberry cereal, which is delicious. Yes, that's right, and we're getting closer to Halloween time now, so that makes me think of the monster cereals. Yeah, Frankenberry, my second favorite of the monster cereals. Of course, we all know I'm on Team Boo, but Frankenberry is a damn fine cereal. Little known fact, this is something I remember hearing about when I was a kid in the 80s. A bunch of children were eating Frankenberry, and the dye from the cereal made their shit red. Yeah, it made their shit red, and all these kids were freaked out because they thought they had bloody shit. They were like, Daddy, Mommy, I got bloody shit. They all freaked out, and they had to change the chemicals that were in the Frankenberry so the kids wouldn't shit blood anymore. So, interesting story. I remember hearing that. Like, these were stories I remember hearing as a kid. That and like that red M&Ms gave you cancer. So, so all these young people whining about a pandemic while my generation had to deal with hearing about bloody shit and cancer candy. We were constantly scared that we might eat cancer candy or have bloody shit or Ted Bundy might grab us. So we had some shit to worry about too. So there you go, younger generation. There you go. Anyway, what was I talking about? Frankenberry? Oh yeah, that's right. White Line Frankenstein. As far as Frankenberry songs go, I think Alice could have done a little bit better. Gotta be honest, I think he could have. But it's alright. I've heard worse things, like on Ozzy Osbourne's new albums. Next, Big Boots. Now, Big Boots is a song that I can imagine a lot of people think is stupid. I can imagine a lot of people listening to the song and go, wow, that's a really stupid song. I think a lot of people might even think it's a bad song. Yeah, I got a suspicion that a lot of people think Big Boots is stupid and bad, or bad and stupid, depending on what hits you first. And it is kind of stupid, and it is kind of bad, but in a really fun, awesome way. Yeah, I like Big Boots, actually. It's probably, I don't know, this might be my second or third favorite song on the album. This one definitely has a 70s vibe. It's got the piano, and it's got a good groove to it. I don't mind when Alice gets kind of silly with his lyrics and a little goofy, brings in some humor. I like it. That's actually, I wish there was a little more of that on this album. I like the gonzo and goofy Alice at times, I even like that gorilla song that's on Constrictor. It's just him talking about this like cowgirl chick that he picks up on the tour that's wearing like cowgirl boots, and of course they're making it sound like he's saying something else. Big boots, she's got big boots. You know what he's saying, what he's talking about. Naughty Alice, naughty. You gotta watch out, Alice. If you keep writing songs like Big Boots, one day you might get canceled or something. Watch out. That's no way to sing on a rock and roll record, Mr. Cooper. I dig Big Boots. Pretty sexy shit. Next, Rules of the Road. Now, this is another song I imagine a lot of people probably think is bad. Now, in this case, they're right. Yeah, this song sucks. It's a really bad song. This is the worst song on the album, maybe, unless you count a Who cover. Okay, so yeah, not a fan of this song, but it does have kind of a dopey Saturday morning charm. It makes me think of, I don't know if a lot of you remember this, but Alice Cooper had a Saturday morning cartoon. It was called Alice Cooper and the Latchy Kids Power Hour. You all remember that. It only lasted one season, but it was like every Saturday morning. It's like the first half was Alice Cooper, and then the second half was the Latchy Kids. And then there was a wrap-up at the end, and Alice would come in and do the Alice's Advice. I believe it was called Alice's Advice. It was a little like the G.I. Joe, knowing it's half the battle. So Alice Cooper would show up to some dumb kid that was like hiding in a refrigerator or petting a stray dog or riding his bicycle like over an electrical wire, and Alice Cooper would say, hey, don't do that. Latchy Kids, remember that? Like, it occurred to me the other day when I was thinking about this old cartoon. I was thinking about how no one talks about Latchy Kids anymore. Like, when I was a kid, That was a thing. Then I realized why. It's because every kid is like a Latchy Kid now. Yeah, that's right, because every kid has two parents working, because they all have to work because they can't afford, to live otherwise. So every kid comes home alone now. So every kid's a Latchy Kid. So that's why we don't talk about them. This shows you how different the world was. Back in the 80s, Latchy Kids are essentially, they were kids that both parents worked. Yeah, there was like a stigma to that, especially if you were growing up and you were middle class. I was just middle class, mind you. And you knew a kid that both his parents worked. It was like a shameful thing. Like people whispered about it. Like, hey, Tony, you see Tony over there? Tony's a Latchy Kid. Yeah, both his parents work. Yeah, it's real sad. Goes home. He watches cartoons by himself. Wow, that sounds rough. Yeah, it was fucked up. That's like what we thought. Imagine if I came home and one of my parents wasn't there. That would freak me out. Somehow there was a world where people made enough money that only one person had to work. And this was middle class, mind you. People think things are getting better. Well, yeah, better for the billionaires flying around in golden private jets, laughing, ha ha ha. You're all fighting about masks and bathrooms while we're eating gourmet ice cream out of golden buckets in our golden private jets. Yeah, and you both gotta work. Both parents have to work, and your kids gotta go home and play shooter games to become a weirdo psycho. Ha ha ha. Joke's on you, bozo. But back in the day, Latchy Kids, they would rock with Alice Cooper. That was an awesome cartoon show. You should watch it. It might be on YouTube. So yeah, Rules of the Road sounds like a song that would have been on that old Saturday morning cartoon. Next, The Big Goodbye. My favorite song on the album. So there you go. Good job, Alice, and your touring band. Great job. Best song on the album. This rocks. Now, this sounds like kind of like a song that would have been on Trash or Hey Stupid Face. But it would have been one of the better songs on those two albums. Yeah, it's a really good, catchy, kind of sexy, dark, melodic metal song. Yeah, that's how I would describe it. It's a good song. Should have been the last song on the album. I mean, it's called The Big Goodbye. I think it makes sense lyrically if it was the last song on the album. And it would have ended this album on a high note. And I do think there's too many songs on this album. Next, Road Rats Forever. Now, Road Rats, to you young new Alice Cooper fans, they're all like flooding into YouTube right now. This is essentially a sequel or a remake of a old song of his from Lace and Whiskey, a very underrated late 70s Alice Cooper album. Has some clunkers, has some silly disco songs and stuff on it, but for the most part, pretty good album. And one of my favorite tracks from that album is a track called Road Rats, which I love. And this is essentially them doing Road Rats again and adding in the word forever. But hey, fuck it. I'll take it. I love Road Rats. So yeah, I'll fucking listen to it again. I will take this sequel. Okay, not bad. Then we have a ballad, Baby Please Don't Go. I don't want to tell Alice Cooper that title's been used a lot of times, because I feel like that'd be rude. I don't want to be that guy. So no one else tell him that too. But yeah, that title's been used like a shit ton. And these lyrics are really generic too. In fact, they're so generic, I'm a little suspicious. I think Alice might have used AI to write the lyrics to this one. I just want lyrics to a cornball ballad for my new album. And the AI surely would have come up with lyrics just like this, because AI sucks. Yeah, I'm not impressed with its writing. Its writing sucks. I write circles around fucking AI. So Baby Please Don't Go, musically not so bad. I like myself a good cornball Alice Cooper ballad. He sings a good ballad, so I like hearing a little different shade here. Despite the generic lyrics, I actually like this song. I think it's a decent ballad. Sounds like half the songs that are on Hey Stupid Face, but yeah, nothing wrong with that. I didn't mind the ballads on Hey Stupid Face either. Okay, then we got 1,000 More Miles, which is really like the last real song on this album. To me, this should have been like the second to last song, and then you go into The Big Goodbye. But regardless, it's a decent song. It's kind of a mid-tier song for me. It's that kind of dark, mystical Alice Cooper song, brings in that vibe, brings in a little bit of the 70s vibe, little Welcome to My Nightmare, but with more slick modern metal production. It's not bad. I like it because it brings in a little darkness. It's a song I can imagine growing on me as I listen to it more and more. And finally, there is a cover of The Who's Magic Bus. I wouldn't call it like horrible. It's not horrible, but it definitely does not need to be on this album. It's never even been one of my favorite Who songs, to be honest. And this is just like, they just rock it out a little more, but I don't know. This is the kind of thing that Alice Cooper wouldn't have done in the 70s. Hell, he wouldn't have even done that in the 80s. Just filling up the album. doesn't need to be this long, and it definitely didn't need to end with Magic Bus. Yeah, I would say that's the worst song on the album. And that's it. That's Road. That's Road. That is the album by Alice Cooper, Road. I like it. I'm not 100% there. I know some people, some Alice fans, I'm sure are going to be more excited by it because it's bringing back a little more of the metal Alice and it's a little more hard rocking. And it's consistent. He's in his 70s now. So, if he just can release a consistent, straight up rock and roll record, that's a good thing. And that's what this is. It's just a straight up, consistent rock and roll record, which for the most part sounds like there's an actual core band there. So that's good. And one of the members of the core band is really fucking hot. Yeah. And she's a great guitar player. Oops, sorry. I meant the other way around. She's a really great guitar player and she's fucking hot. That's the way to do it. That's the way to think. Get your minds out of the gutter or back in the gutter. Yeah, goddamn it. It's rock and roll. Yeah. So you know what? Because I love rock and roll music and because culture and art and music is important to me and because Alice Cooper has delivered a solid rock and roll album, I am not going to cancel him from my music library. That's right. I'm making that decision to keep every Alice Cooper album, even the couple that I think suck. So there you go. I'm still supporting Alice Cooper and his music. And I'm sure all these new fans that are excited by him are likewise going to support him and start buying all his old albums. Oh, by the way, I highly recommend get that fucking Killer remaster. Yeah, the Killer remaster deluxe edition. Amazing. One of the best releases this year, in my opinion. That second disc, that live show. Woo! Man, is that live show good. And that's like from the early 70s. I was surprised how good that show sounded. Usually the sound quality on these bonus live discs are kind of like, maybe slightly above bootleg level usually. But in this case, that live show sounds fucking awesome. It sounds great. And it's a great set list. And if you're a fan of Killer, and you definitely should be, definitely get it. And get Road. I think it's a solid rock and roll album. Kind of generic and stupid in spots, but hey, I will take some generic and stupid rock and roll sometimes. And it's important to support rock and roll and support Alice Cooper. So there you go. There you go. Definitely check out those other Alice Cooper videos if you're new fans. And also like and subscribe to my channel. I talk about a lot of old rock and roll stars. Go and check it all out. And that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say. I got nothing else to say. Is there anything else in the news?